US and Israel, they have carried out major strikes on Iran. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, this one is different to what we saw last year, or at least anything that I've reported on before. This is not a single operation like we saw last year with those B-2 bombers. In fact, in Trump's own words, this is a massive and ongoing operation. He even referred to this as a war. At one point in his 8-minute speech announcing the attacks, he said that American lives may be lost, but that's what happens at war. So let's break down what's been happening. So in a joint operation, the US and Israel launched a major military campaign, striking 5 different cities of Iran, including their capital. The latest videos and images show large amounts of damage, suggesting that many of these missiles that came from the US and Israel did make impact and were not intercepted. We don't have any information, though, on the number of casualties or the extent of the damage yet. What we do know, though, is that the residence of Iran's supreme leader was hit, in fact, multiple times, and we can see this with satellite imagery, which is reported by the CNN. But there is no word on whether he was inside or not. It is highly unlikely that he wasn't in there because that would be an extreme failure by Iran's intelligence agency. So probably not. I assume he was in some underground bunker. Now, it didn't stop there because almost immediately after these strikes, Iran was then hit with a major wave of cyber attacks. One of the country's main apps for tracking prayer times was hacked, and it started sending Iranian citizens notifications like help has arrived and it is the time for reckoning. On top of that, a number of Iran state news broadcasters were hacked and disrupted as well. And as you can imagine, this would almost certainly cause a bunch of confusion amongst the public wanting to know, where the bombs are coming from, what the hell, where, which country is it coming from. But guess what? They couldn't because their news source is down. That would be scary as hell. They also had a major internet blackout. So I'm assuming some of the reason for doing this is that it would drive the people of Iran to look for other sources of news, potentially outside of the country. Now, here's where things get pretty serious because less than an hour after the news broke that these strikes had actually made impact, Donald Trump then posted about an 8-minute speech saying some hugely significant things, and it was from this speech that we got the indication that this is not going to be a one-day operation. This will be ongoing for the foreseeable future. This looks like war. Trump started off with the history of Iran, that they've been chanting death to America for 47 years. He then said that Iran had missiles that can now reach Europe, which is unsettling as someone who lives in Europe, and that they soon too could develop missiles that could hit the US homeland. Now, we stated multiple times, as we've heard before, that Iran can never have nuclear weapons. But unlike times before, it seems that the US now, at least from what we gathered from this speech, have much bigger ambitions. He directly addressed Iran's armed forces, saying he said that they were going to annihilate their navy, destroy their missiles, and raise their missile industry to the ground. He then addressed the Iranian people, and this is where things are truly, when I was hearing this, I was like, damn. He said the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay in your homes. It's going to be very dangerous. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. And when we are finished, take over your government. It is yours to take. And this will probably be your only chance for generations. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. This is your one moment for action. Do not let it pass. You see what I mean? This is not just about Iran having nukes anymore. This is clearly about a regime change in the country. Now, at one point, not only did Trump acknowledge that American lives will be lost and there could be casualties, and saying that often happens at war, but he also said about 4 or 5 times in this speech to pray for the brave American men and women who are carrying out this operation. Now, Netanyahu also echoed the same sentiment. He said to the people of Israel in the coming days in Operation Roar of the Lion, we will all be required to have endurance and fortitude. Now, on that note, less than a couple of hours after all of this went down, Iran's response began. Missile strikes from Iran were reported in several Gulf countries, including Kuwait, UAE, Qatar, Saudi, and Bahrain. They were obviously trying to, at least from what we know, target US bases. Embassies from multiple countries, including the US, UK, and Canada, started urging their citizens to take shelter, have a supply of food, water, medication, and other essential items. They asked them to keep their phones charged, monitor the news, let family and friends know how you are, if you're okay. Honestly, pretty doomsday stuff. Explosions were heard in Dubai. Not the kind of thing that you would expect in Dubai. Obviously the world's tallest building, Burj Khalifa, that had to be evacuated after you could literally see missiles being intercepted above the US Navy base, the 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain, that was hit by a missile. The country's National Communications Center confirmed that this key US naval base was subject to a missile attack, but they didn't give any information on the extent of that damage and if there were any casualties there. Qatar Airways, Emirates, and many other airways suspended flights, because a huge portion of the entire region closed their airspace. And in fact, the UAE, immediately after this, they issued an official statement saying that they reserve the right to respond to Iran's missile attacks after one person in Abu Dhabi was killed by falling debris in residential area. The UAE called it a dangerous escalation. So you're probably wondering, how bad is this? What happens from here? Well, one, not going to lie to you, it's pretty serious. And two, expect this to unfold over the next few days and potentially even weeks. It really depends on how, severe Iran responds to these attacks. Even right now, as I'm recording, Iran is launching another wave of missiles towards Israel. And reporters from CNN say that they spoke with a senior official who says that the US has planned an escalating series of strikes with off ramps along the way. They say each round will be over within a 1 or 2 day period with pauses to reset and assess battle damages and obviously giving them that break to be like Iran. Make sure you subscribe because I know a lot of stuff is going to happen over the weekend.